What's going on, brother?
What's up? How's it going?
Good. I'm excited for this one.
Good. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Those Two Dads, where we talk all things dadpreneur. So I'm Kyle. This is my guy, Josh. Today's a good one. So we got a couple of special guests here. We have Paul Hutchings and Mike Hobbs, co-founders of the Home Business Academy. They founded that back in 2016 when they realized that they could provide a home for struggling entrepreneurs to gain their independence from their day jobs, right? That's kind of what we're all aiming for. With that company, or with their company, they not only have helped countless people get into online business and even helped others expand their already successful businesses. All the while, they've used a portion of their profits to provide meals to over 200,000 children as part of the Feed My Starving Children program. That's awesome. So real quick, before we get going, though, go ahead and hit the hearts. Drop a hashtag live if you're on with us on Facebook or YouTube. And if you catch it later, give us a hashtag replay. Be sure to tag these episodes with your favorite dad or mompreneur. We love helping everybody out and spreading this message that we try to do every couple of weeks. So, Josh, what's up?
Without further ado, we're going to bring in the guys. We got Mr. Paul Hutchings and Mr. Mike Hobbs. What's up, guys?
What's up, fellas?
The crowd goes wild. Hey, everybody. Great to be here. Thanks, Josh and Kyle.
Yeah,
hey, Mike.
Yeah, so appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you guys do have a lot on your plate, and we do really appreciate you being here with us today. And I, for one, am excited about this because I love your guys' story. I love exactly kind of, the upbringing into you're getting into entrepreneurial endeavors, getting into realizing the value you can provide to the world, and then just taking that full steam ahead, full force, and putting it into others. And that's the thing that really we love about putting this show on, is doing things for other people, being out there, being an inspiration and a light for others. And so why don't each of you just kind of take a couple minutes, introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about yourselves, and then we'll go from there.
1, 2, 3, not it.
Cool. I guess I can go first. Cool. Well, welcome, or thank you for letting me come on the show. That's
Absolutely
pretty cool. I love to hang out with fellow entrepreneurs, especially dads, right? So that's cool. So anyway, I'm just real quick story. Actually, if you didn't know, I was in the military for 12 years. That was actually out of high school. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted maybe to go to college, maybe to get a good job. I didn't really know anything about entrepreneurship out of high school.
Sounds like a pretty common story, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I joined the military instead, right? Because I just literally had no idea what to do. Right. And they said they'll pay for my college and all these things. But little did I know, 1 month into my military experience, 9/11 happened. I actually joined in May of that 2001 in boot camp. I went to boot camp in August, and September 11 happened literally 1 month into boot camp. So my life changed completely then. I thought I was going to join the military, go to college, and then instead I was going to Iraq, right? I was going on different deployments, and one deployment in 2005, I actually was married. I had a child, and I had to leave them behind just to go over to Iraq, and I missed my kids. I literally, my 3-year-old daughter didn't even recognize me when I was coming home from that deployment, because I was gone for 1.5 years. So it was pretty hard for me to go down that path. So it led me to looking into being an entrepreneur and actually reading a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad in Iraq while I was in a tower. And I was reading that book. I was like, okay, I can build a business and I can get out of this situation. So I went back home, went into the mortgage industry, eventually got introduced to a network marketing meeting, right? And the rest is history. Like 2007 was when I first started my entrepreneurial journey into the network marketing world, which led me online in 2008, because I don't know about any of you guys, but have experience with offline stuff, right?
It was not fun.
Presentations, and that wasn't me. I'm an introverted person. So I liked online. So I got onto the world of online, failed for many, many years. And I eventually met Paul Hutchings. I met Paul in 2011, where I started dialing in to his call, learning the principles of success, masterminding with 7 and 8 figure earners. And then I started learning marketing. And from there on, I was finally able. So it took me quite a while, from 2007. But in 2013, I finally quit my job. I actually quit my job a long time ago before that, but I got out of the military specifically in 2013. So I consider May 15th, 2013, my freedom day.
Woo!
Because I was earning more from home than I was in the military and anything else that I was doing. So I got out and then, through all these, we'll maybe talk a little bit about some of the other crazy stories from Paul with the companies that we've been a part of, but it led us to our own company in 2016. And that's why we're here today, 5 years into it. Like you said, you already introduced what we've done with our company, but yeah, I'm just super excited to be here. And, this freedom is a big thing to me, because when I was at the military, I was constantly leaving my family over and over and over. So, I'm fighting for freedom for the country, but I really didn't have freedom myself. So that's what's super important. So anyway, that's just my quick story, but I'll turn it over to Mr. Paul.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's a great story. And just one quick piece before going into Paul here, just hearing that, right? 1 month into boot camp, not even like being active duty, but boot camp, getting, having to deal with 9/11 and being deployed and all that stuff, but learning how like the military talks about freedom, right? And you obviously fought for freedom, you fought for the country, you fought for your family and everybody else, and that comes to mind at that point. But it's it's got to be a different feeling being able to have freedom from even that.
Right. Yeah, it's huge. It's huge because when you're able to stay home and you make enough money to where you don't have to go to a job, or you don't have to be worried about being deployed. Look at what's going on right now. Like imagine, if I was possibly could be going on another deployment here in the next, year or so, you just never know. So
awesome.
I think what I love most about these podcasts, Josh, is learning about everybody's personal growth journey that they go through. And at some point everybody has this aha moment, or Mike, I think yours was more like a year and a half where you don't get to be with your daughter. Right. And that at that point, that's 1/3 of her entire life that you weren't able to be a part of. And that had to be excruciating, especially when you came home and she didn't recognize you. And then that just triggers, this thing in your mind that just puts you on this even more explosive and exponential journey to get where you are now. And to look back now and see that, has to be pretty incredible just in and of itself.
Yeah, it's been amazing. And that daughter, then she's now 18. So she's an adult now, which is crazy. But yeah, that when she was super young, she didn't recognize who I was. And luckily I was able to win my freedom, because now I've been able to build a good relationship with her where she wants to come over every week versus forced to. So
amazing.
Paul, my man, you're up.
All right. Do we have a time limit here? I'm wondering if I should set my timer for like 5 minutes and then try to get it done quick.
Paul, our rule of thumb is just go till it's not interesting anymore, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how good we are.
According to who? Can we make someone a judge? Because everyone has different. Just kidding. Right. No, I'll be quick. But yeah, I'm super grateful to be here, Josh and Kyle. Thanks for having us. Josh, I know you a lot, really well. And Kyle, I'm looking forward to getting to know you better. But I just love you, Josh. You've got such a great heart. You're always serving everyone as much as you can. And just an honor to be here. And I love this format. So anyway, excited to be on the podcast. Hello to all the listeners. If you're watching or listening, however you're plugging in, thanks for being here. So my name is Paul Hutchings. I grew up in a little town called Blackfoot, Idaho. And an easy way to remember that is that it is the potato capital of the world. And we actually have a potato museum in Blackfoot that has this huge potato out in front of the museum, and we offer free taters for out-of-staters. So that is our claim to fame.
I love it.
But yeah, I grew up in this little town, raised in a single parent family, never had a lot of money growing up, and saw my mom struggle with bills and things like that. And I think as a little kid, I just always thought, man, it'd be nice to, have money and not have to worry. Like I see my mom worrying all the time. And I remember seeing her at night, like she used to keep track of the bills in these spiral notebooks, and she'd have them open on the kitchen counter with a calculator out. And I just remember seeing her, like, sometimes putting her head in her hands and just being stressed out about how she was going to provide for my sister and I. And I think that kind of planted a seed in me that, I wanted to try to, build a life where my kids didn't have to see that. But anyway, my mom was such a great mom. She fought and sacrificed and provided a great life for my sister and I. I was going to school, trying to figure out how to live happily ever after. And so I listened to my teachers and my mentors around me, and they said, go to school, get good grades, go to college, graduate from college, and then you will live happily ever after. And so I read that book and thought, okay, well, I want the happily ever after. So that's what I did. I went to college. I studied hard. I got good grades. I graduated with a business degree. And then I got my first job in a call center, making $11.09 an hour, which I eventually learned to be grateful for. But at the time, I got to tell you, I was like, what? 40 grand in debt?
That's humbling. Yeah.
Like what is going on here? This was not the ending of the story they had me read, right? But nonetheless, you do the best with the situations that you're in. And so I worked hard. I showed up to work early. I stayed late, and I experienced what I lovingly refer to as and if you're listening to this, I'm putting my fingers up in quotation marks, the joys of corporate life. And I have a lot of stories to tell. I will just share one tonight. And that is, I remember one time my boss, he said, Paul, we need you to go down to Phoenix, Arizona and do this meeting for the company. And I said, okay, boss, well, when is it? And he said, well, it's on this weekend. And I thought, ooh, that's my first year wedding anniversary. And I said to my boss, is it okay if I run it by my wife just to make sure? Because it's our first year wedding anniversary. And he said, yeah, go ahead, run it by her. So I talked to my wife. We were newly married, living in a single wide trailer house, working this job, just trying to get a start in life. And she said, well, it's your job. So yeah, you probably should go. So I told the boss, I'll be there. So wedding anniversary weekend comes. I fly down to Phoenix. I work all day Friday, all day Saturday. Saturday's my anniversary. I get done with the work, and I'm sitting in a steakhouse at this restaurant, and I'm sitting there by myself, no one there. Finish my steak, look at my phone, pick it up, dial my wife's number, and say, "Hey, honey, happy anniversary." And I just remember feeling so sad that this important day, and I was not there. I was off for the company, but it was what it was, right? But then about 6 months later, I'm in my review with my boss. And he says, Paul, he goes, you're doing good here, and here. There's just one area that we're really concerned. And I said, really? What area is that? And he said, we're concerned about your loyalty to the company. And I said, really, boss? Tell me more. How am I not loyal? And he said, well, remember that time when we asked you to go do that meeting? And you said you had to check with your wife or whatever. And I said, yeah. He goes, you hesitated. And that showed us that, your loyalty is just not 100% with the company. And I remember walking out of that office just feeling like, wow, like, I'm sorry, but I don't care what job I have. I mean, I have this job so I can take care of my family. So really my family is my number one priority. Sorry, that's just the way it is. But they looked at that as a negative on my career path. And so I felt like that wasn't just. And, that was one of many experiences that kind of spoke to my soul and said, you've got to get away. You've got to find a way to where you're not going to have someone's thumb on you, all of your life. And that's what led me to network marketing. And I joined my very first network marketing company while I was working this job. Actually, one of my coworkers invited me to go to a meeting. So I went to the meeting, and guy on the front of the room with the whiteboard, hey, I can show you guys how to make $40,000 a month in the next 90 days. And I'm like, hold on, $11.09 an hour, a boss not appreciating me, telling me I'm not loyal versus $40,000 a month. This is an easy choice, right? So I joined this company, and lo and behold, a year later, I had made $0, right? And even a few years after that, I think I went 4 or 5 years without really hitting any significant goals. That being said, I was introduced to this concept of personal growth. Kyle mentioned personal growth. And the very first company that I joined that I didn't make any money in had this recommended reading list. And one of those books was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's so cool hearing Mike, tell that story, because I remember actually the moment I was sitting in this single wide trailer house. It was evening time after my long day of work at this job. And I had Rich Dad, Poor Dad open on my lap because this was a book on the list that my company had given me. And I remember getting to the part where he talks about the pipeline, and he says, you can build well, first off, he says wealthy people build income in different ways than poor people, right? You got the employee and the self-employed, business owner and investor. And I thought, oh, wow, that's different. I've never heard that before. And then he gets to this concept called the pipeline, where he says you can build a pipeline from the marketplace to your bank account. And once that pipeline is built, yes, it takes work, but once it's built, the pipeline will continue to pump money from the market to your bank account, and that frees up your time. And when I read that idea, it literally felt like someone reached their finger inside my brain that was in a dark room and flipped on a light switch, because I saw a whole new world and a whole new path. And I said, I've got to have that. I've got to have that. I've got to have that freedom. And that's kind of, one of the things that really inspired me to go through the hard times. And there were hard times. I mentioned 4 or 5 years of not making much money. Then I joined, different companies, had, lots of struggles and challenges along the way. But thankfully, at some point, thanks to good mentors and learning, good principles, I finally had success. I actually became the #1 recruiter and producer in my nutritional network marketing company. And right around that time, I was also introduced to the internet and affiliate marketing. And, I'm free. I'm, finally a free man after all of those years. And so, so that's my quick story. And I'll turn it back to Josh or Kyle or both of you.
Well, what's great about those, it's the journey, the journey is what matters. But somebody looks at you guys now and like, oh, wow, they're such great, what a success story, and failed to see the groundwork that gets put in. Both of you talked about not making a ton of money when you first started out, but you're building this foundation. And even at the time, you don't know you're really building it, or maybe you do, but it doesn't feel like it's moving in at the speed you want to, right? And you lay that brick by brick by brick. And then you do get to that point, like you said, Paul, where freedom, right? It's there, but then again, but you got to look back now and you're like, oh man, that's a crazy path. But, I wouldn't have been able to be here if I wouldn't have gone through those trials and moments and those parts where you are feeling down, but you leaned into your process, and kept going.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And something, really interesting about both of you guys' story. And obviously for those of you listening, I'm Josh, I'm part of their program. I'm part of the Home Business Academy. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the interesting thing is I've heard that story, from both Mike's perspective and Paul's perspective. And every time there's still something that I get out of it, because there's lessons to be learned, even in other people's experiences. There's lessons to be learned in what other people go through. So that way, us as the people that are kind of coming up in that path, that we can try to avoid some of those mistakes. And that's one of the things that drew me to Paul and Mike, was just how they have such an affinity for teaching other people, like, hey, this is what we went through. And almost on every call we have or anything like that, there's always a little bit of a story that's like, here's where we were and this is where we are now, and these are the things we've done to get here. And they're teaching those principles. And I think that's what that you take that personal growth along with being a leader. And we'll let you guys talk a little bit about that here in a minute, because I know where that leadership conversation is going to go to. But like becoming a leader and teaching other people in a specific way to prevent that downfall that happens.
Yeah. I have to say something funny real quick. You mentioned that you're a part of what Mike and I are doing. And as I'm watching these squares of the videos, I couldn't help but thinking of like the Brady Bunch or the Sesame Street, where they used to say which one of these doesn't belong. And I was like, I got the shirt, Mike's got the shirt, Josh has got the shirt. You gotta get Kyle a shirt. No, I'm sorry.
you know what's going to happen now is I'm going to just send him a shirt and be like, you were missing out, brother.
He doesn't have to join anything. He doesn't have to buy anything. He just needs a shirt in case we ever do this again. No. That's really random.
Even, to be honest, I didn't even realize that until you started mentioning that. And the minute you were going that route, I knew where you were going, and I went, "Oh yeah."
One of these things is not like the other. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say one thing with the journey and the story is that oftentimes they'll read things in books, like persistence. Napoleon Hill talks about persistence is like the most important thing. And he has a whole, chapter on it or whatever. And sometimes we read these things and we could have the tendency to say, oh, he's just trying to inspire me, or, oh, he's just trying to pick me up off my grumpy day that I'm having or whatever. But I really, truly believe there are principles in life. There are principles of success, and persistence is one of those. I love my story, the part of my story where I talk about how I failed for so long. Everyone doesn't have this experience where they fail for years and years like I did. But I did, literally didn't make any money my entire first year. The next 4 years was like $100 here, a few $100 there. That's literally like 5 years of staying in the game when I had, and many people have, every reason to quit because the money's not showing up and their families are saying, hey, this isn't working. Oh, you're going to do another thing. Oh, haha. Yeah. Good luck with that. Why is this one going to be different? The last one didn't work, and you're having to deal with all of that. And all while you're dealing with that, and you highlighted this, there's something happening underneath, if you stick with it. Jim Rohn, one of my favorite quotes from Jim Rohn, he says, the greatest value in life is not what you get. The greatest value is what you become. Yep. You can't read about persistence in a book and then have it like, oh, I read about it. Now let me make a video on it. It's a whole different experience when you fail and fail and fail and fail and fail and fail, or not achieve your goal, not achieve your goal, not achieve your goal, but you just stick with it because your vision is so worth it. And then you achieve it. Now you've taken that principle that was in a book and you've lived it out in your life. And now when you speak about it, your words are that much more powerful because you're speaking from experience, not from, something that you've read in a book. And that's the part that I think a lot of people want to skip over. They just want to, hey, just get me to the money, get me to the success, get me to the leaderboards, get me here, get me there. And that all of that journey is such an essential part in getting to that place. So yeah, you really got to, enjoy it as much as you can. I don't know that I can say I enjoyed every minute of it, but looking back on it, really, it made us who we are. It makes all of us who we are. Our experiences make us. So, or break us. Don't let them break you. Let them make you. So. Right.
Yeah, persistence is super huge, especially like there's been so many times where I wanted to hang it up. Like my very first experience was I took a loan out on my house to get into this investment thing at 20 grand out of my house. And they went out of business and it took all of our money and ran. I was actually 100K in debt at the time and we were facing bankruptcy. I could have just quit then, but I didn't. Right. And then I built up a pretty good income in one company online. I made 20 grand in 2 months. And then they decided they didn't like the way we were marketing and they basically dropped our pay by 60%. Right. So it was
like one of those situations where they didn't want to adapt to online.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
We were promoting on Craigslist, and they're just like, oh, and we had 0 chargebacks. Everyone was happy with the products. Yeah. And then they're just like, we don't like that marketing method. And then guess what happened when they dropped all of our income? They didn't just drop my income.
Their income dropped.
Our income, our entire downline's income. And so everyone charged back after that, right? So it was kind of crazy. Then I built a 7-figure business, and then the company did things that was, making the company crash. We left the company 1 year early, but they eventually went bankrupt, right? They went bankrupt. So we built up a 7-figure business, gone, nothing to show for it. And then I built another 7-figure business, and I even withdrew all this money, like over 600 grand in 1 year from that company, profit, paid off my house. I was expecting another 300,000 or something the next month, but then they went out of business before paying me. And then I didn't have enough money for my taxes because I paid my house off. So guess what I had to go do? Get a loan to pay my taxes.
Yep.
It was just like, all these little things. And I built up these multiple 7-figure businesses, multiple thousands of dollars online, and I had nothing to show for it in 2016. Think about that. Nothing.
That's incredible.
And to go back to what we said earlier too, is like, that was, you take that time frame, right? 2007 to 2016. And, all of this success that was there, but because of the uncontrollables, right? The things that you didn't have control over, but somebody else did, that impacted your way of life. And next thing you know, you're back to square one, and you're starting over again, and you're just doing it over and over. And it kind of goes like with what Paul said. And like, that was honestly, Mike, I think I should almost say that I trained you on that, because that was like a perfect segue into the big question, right? Is, Paul talked about principles, and Mike, you just talked about going through all these hardships and, building up and being dropped and building up and being dropped. So now let's talk about like getting into 2016. What happened where your next step of your journey just kind of started to come to fruition? Like, how did HBA become a thing?
You want to take it, Mike? Yeah. Yeah. So Mike and I were in a company, and I love the company, and I love the experiences we had, and I love the relationships that we had. It really was a wonderful time and a great, opportunity for growth. I always want to say that because, I don't want to speak negatively about the company, because it really, like we talked about before, it made us who we are, and it gave us, great stepping stones. That being said, there came a time in the company where the company started to do things that were not great. For example, one thing they did was they changed the compensation plan to include what they called them quotas. And so we had a nice big residual income because we had a big team, and the company said, here's an idea. If you don't produce 4 new sales every month, you are not going to get paid your full income. It's going to be cut, right? And this was not the first time something like this has happened, but we thought that that would never happen in this company. We really thought that would never happen, because the company that we were in at the time was supposed to be different. It was, a company for the people, so on and so forth. So anyway, that happened.
When you're creating that kind of impact for a company like that, do you get to know these decision makers?
Yeah, we were actually on the leadership council with this company.
Yeah.
So theoretically, we are supposed to be giving feedback, right? So yeah, and answer your question, yeah.
So that just comes as an even bigger smack whenever it's just a greed grab.
Yeah, and I don't know that it was. I don't know, because I think sometimes things happen behind the scenes that we can't see. For example, maybe the company's not growing as fast as they want it to grow, and they want to, help the growth to continue, which they perceive is going to help everyone as a whole. Like that could be a reasoning behind one of these decisions. Or another one would be leaders' incomes are dropping and they want to buoy up the incomes. And so they take part of the money and put it up into the leadership, the producers, right? So, I don't know that it was greed in this particular case, but I do know that it was changing a deal, changing an agreement, changing the whole reason that I ever joined a home-based business, clear back from when I first got started, was to build a residual income. That is what is attractive to me, building an income that creates freedom, and that's residual income. So when stuff like that happens, it really is hard for me to take. But that wasn't the only thing. We actually kind of stayed and tried to be supportive. Other things happened, like starting a separate product line with a separate back office. So now our new members have 2 back offices to keep track of, and everyone was just really confused, as to what was happening. And then, over promising and under delivering. So the new products that the company launched that everyone paid for somehow didn't get developed and didn't get added in for it felt like a long time, and so we're like, this is not good. Everyone's getting confused. They're not getting, what they were promised. And so, all of that combined with the fact that both Mike and I were doing our best to communicate to the leadership these problems. We're like, these are problems. We need to fix these. And there was absolutely no open ear to any of that. So we knew that there was nothing we could do to have a positive impact here. And so all of this was happening. Mike and I, we made the decision together that we just couldn't do it anymore. And so we flew to an event that we had a bunch of team members at, and they were all excited about the company. And there's Mike and I showing up to the event to meet with the company owner, who we loved. He did a lot for us. We still love today, so that we could tell him, hey, we're leaving and we're very sorry about this. We were at a crossroads, and the crossroads was, and Mike, you can verify this. We talked about this in our hotel room. We either get out of home business altogether because it didn't feel authentic to talk about residual income when over and over and over and over again, this type of thing was happening. This wasn't the first time, as I mentioned. Companies go out of business, they change the comp plan, they, start doing things that are harming the group. And this has just happened over and over and over again. So we said, we either have to get out, and we said, we'll just go to go back to the job world, or crazy idea, and it was crazy, and it still feels crazy when I think about it, like we could try to create something that would be the change we wish to see in the home business world. And so that's where the conversation started. And we just started to ask the question, if there were a company that had everything that we loved and none of the things that we didn't love, what would that look like? And we're still answering that question today, but that's where the company came from. So did I explain that right, Mike, or miss anything you want to add?
No, that was perfect. We didn't want to be owners, originally. We just wanted to be an affiliate for a company that was here long term. We wanted to build residual income. We had a residual income. Like I said, we had multiple 7-figure businesses, and I was making good money in that company particularly. But again, they just do things that get your income goes away. It just kept happening and happening and happening. So it was like, I didn't want to go back to a job. Like maybe that was an option, that was out there, but I definitely didn't want to go back to that world. I didn't want to go back into the military for sure. So it's like, we either create our own company or stay in this vicious cycle. And this is what's crazy. Paul and I created our company 2016. But the leaders that were with us in the leadership council, I continue to watch their journey, which would have been Paul and my journey. And they would do the same thing. They would go to a company, the company would go out of business, then they would go to the next one. They do something stupid, and then they jump to the next one. And it wasn't even the leader's fault. Like some of the leaders were really high caliber, like Tracy Walker, for example, is a really awesome lady. But I seen her go into companies and then they would just like screw her over. And then she would have to go to another one. It was like, these aren't even people who hop. You know, these are people who are loyal and out there and building businesses. And these companies keep on doing the same thing. And I just saw all these leaders going through that same cycle. And the thing that scares me is that's what Paul and I would be doing right now.
Yep.
If we didn't do this. So it's crazy.
It's got to be hard to see all those people, man, just that you build up, that they keep assuming positive intent because that's what you got to do to keep going, right? And then just to keep getting burned.
Well, especially when you're the one helping them to build the faith, right? Like you're the one that they're believing in and you're the one championing, you know, whatever you're championing. It's really, it gets to a point where it's your fault. Like, you know, I mean, you can't see everything, but when this happens again and again, you're like, this is my fault. Like if they follow me and this happens again, at some point I have to say, this is my fault, you know? So, and it is hard. Tears. I mean, one company I was with my sponsor and we got on a conference call and just cried to our team because we had been telling them that this was the one, like, we're all going to retire with this. This is the one. And sure enough, they messed it up and we had to say, we're so sorry. But somehow so sorry doesn't really make it better, you know? And so we just got tired of that. We said, we don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah. And
I can relate to that even outside of like a home business. You know, I had a brick and mortar myself 10 years ago with a couple of partners, and that partnership soured. And there was this point, like kind of exactly what you're talking about, Paul, where your message to the team is to be positive and belief. But there's this other half where you're in this little battle and trying to hold it all together and make the right decisions, but you can't come together. And then you end up having to have those conversations where, you know, I'm sorry.
Yep.
You know, and it's hard. I mean, it's devastating, really. I mean, tears, like you were talking about, those are not fun conversations. And there wasn't any sort of like malintent or anything. It just didn't work.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and that's like, I can, you know, and then Paul, I know you've kind of gotten the hint from that from me being part of the group too, is like, I went through a lot of that as well. I mean, my wife and I have been through countless network marketing teams, and you get burned and burned and burned and burned. And next thing you know, I mean, we thought we had the same thing. We're like, oh man, we found the one, you know, this is great. We found a great team of people. We found a great group of individuals that wanted more out of life. And the company turned around and said, we've got this new quota. And immediately the faith in the business just disappears, because you go, well, hold on. You told me when I signed that contract, these are my terms. And now you're saying, well, we're going to update the terms because that's best for everybody. And it's like, it kind of goes back to, you know, it's like a lot of the kids movies, right? Where you always hear that line, best for everyone or best for you.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's a common theme in kids movies. And I started thinking to myself, why do they do that a lot in kids movies? It's like, because these animators, they know what it feels like to be part of companies that also do the same thing. So why not teach the kids through their storytelling and through their animations, like, this is something that can happen to you in real life. Like, watch out for these things. But
yeah. And business is hard enough. Like, anyone who says home business is easy, just join, we'll, you know, get you a lot of money. Lies for the most part. Now, maybe there's something I'm not aware of, but my experience has been building a life of freedom it's difficult. And when I say difficult, I don't mean that there are things you have to do that are like rocket science. The things you have to do are not rocket science. But what's difficult for a lot of people is doing those things every day, day after day after day after day. All the no's, you know, the challenges, the setbacks. You finally learn how to sponsor and recruit. And then you realize that, oh my gosh, not everyone's going to stay. What? People are actually going to quit. Why would they do that? But yes, that is part of the journey, right? And so business is hard enough, even when you have a perfect company. So it's like, why does it have to be even harder from the company standpoint? Like, why do they have to make it even harder than it already is? Like, that just seems like it shouldn't be the case, you know? So, yeah.
I do like what you said though earlier, Paul, where you were assuming a lot of positive intent. You know, there are things that go on behind the scenes that you don't know about, you know, and maybe you don't need to know about them, and that's okay. But because business is hard, it's not easy.
Yep.
So, but then there's also the others that make you jaded.
Yeah, that's true.
So now I'm curious because I've heard a little bit of this and read a little bit about this, but what brought you guys to not just like, so you got HBA right now. So now 2016, you decided you wanted to build your own company. You built it, and there's countless people there that absolutely swear by it, myself included. You know, the principles that you guys teach, they're amazing. So what brought you to now start adding in feeding hungry children? Like, where did that come about? Was that right away that you were like, we have to have a good cause, or did that come later?
It was right away. I was reading a book by Peter Diamandis. I don't remember, Abundance something. And he told a story in that book about some entrepreneur that was doing water wells to people who needed water. And I was inspired, and I called Mike and I said, hey, you know, we should do something like this. Not just from a charitable aspect, but because we know that in order to make something work long-term, you really have to believe in it. And so we're always asking ourselves the question, how can we make this so good that we believe in it so much that we never want to quit, you know, that it's not just about the money, because eventually you get to a point where money is really not much of a motivator anymore. So what do you do then? Do you just quit, or do you keep going? And we wanted to have reasons tied in that would help us, you know, continue to be motivated and inspired. And we knew that would also probably have the same effect. If it worked on us, it probably would work, you know, on the people that we wanted to attract.
For me,
the built-in impact, you know?
Yeah, it's just a cool thing too, because like there's a lot of charities out there that don't actually, you know, give most of the money to a charity, right? And then there's a lot of charities that are kind of like handouts, right, to people. And we didn't want it to be a handout, and we didn't want it to not go to the actual charity. So we picked this one because we know kids, you know, they can't help it. Like they have, like, parents, they can probably go get a job, or they can go hustle and make some money. Like I even see people who are homeless out there just with a hat, you know, and they're getting money, right? So, but kids they're not like that. Like they are pretty much helpless, especially if they're just abandoned. So we figure, you know, if we're feeding kids with every, like, a percentage of all the money that comes into the company, that number is going to grow and grow and grow and grow as we grow. So it's kind of a hidden motivator, and it's something that, you know, is helping someone who actually needs it. And also, I believe, I don't remember how much they give to the charity, but I think it's almost all of it. So
yeah, they had a really high score on Charity Navigator, I think, is the website that evaluates, you know, different charities. So,
and you can even volunteer your time to these and go and actually pack the food with them. So it's pretty cool.
That's neat. Those experiences alone, going to volunteer like that, are so impactful. They change you.
Yeah, we haven't done that yet. We've been planning on it. But I agree.
That'd be super cool.
We definitely want to do that, you know, have anyone who wants to show up and just, you know, serve and be a part of the process for a day. I think that would be really, really memorable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just thinking out loud too, and, you know, maybe this is a conversation for another day, but I think that would be a cool event, right? Is, you know, in all of us have been part of events, you know, company events where they say it's for like team building and that kind of stuff. But in reality, you're there for their agenda. You're not there for your agenda or even to help or anything. And I think that'd be kind of cool to be able to have something, you know, just the thought that you could do more with your time and that be a more impactful event than just like see a bunch of the leaders get on stage and say, look at me, look at what I've done. Now you go do the same thing. And
team building is a little bit different when it's behind for a cause, though.
Right.
When it's charitable.
Absolutely.
We're building one right now for my day job. We're giving away hearing aids, $1 million worth. I mean, and it's pretty crazy to be a part of something like that.
Wow.
You know, that's outside and on top of what your regular duties are, you know, and be able to give back to communities where, you know, you're actually making an impact, right? That's what that's about.
Kind of makes you feel good about what you're doing, right? Like, it's like, wow, this is about more than a paycheck. You know, it's like we're doing something really good together here.
Mm-hmm.
So then you know, we're just recapping for anybody who decided to skip through, because, you know, there's those people out there. So, you know, both of you guys kind of found your moment to get into being a home, you know, building a home business. You've had your ups and your downs. You decided that, you know, you wanted to build something that was all the things you love, but not any of the things you hate. And then be able to even, you know, put an impact behind it, a worldly impact, not even just something that's like, oh, my community, but like around the world that you're feeding starving children. And so then what's the future for the company after that? I mean, to me, if I was a person on the outside, I'd be sitting here like, how do I not know about this place already? Like, this is amazing. So like, how do you expand on that? How do you get better even from there?
I don't know. Something that I learned about Sam Walton, I read his autobiography one time, and he said that he would just show up to work every day and ask himself, like, what's one thing I can do better? What's one thing how can I make this better? And that philosophy, you know, built Walmart. And so that's kind of the philosophy that we have, is we don't know all the answers. And I think a lot of people pretend like they do have all the answers also, you know, in home business. That's another thing that maybe I don't like so much, is people are like, I'm a prophet and this is where we're going and you're going to be a part of us because this is what we're going to do, you know? And it's like, I don't know what the future holds for sure, but I feel like if we all try to do the right thing as far as we can understand that to be, and we continue showing up every day, asking that question, like, what can I do to make this better? What can I do to make this better? It just kind of naturally gets better and better and better, right? And that's kind of how our partnership has worked, Mike, right? Like, we just have those conversations. We listen to the community. We pay attention to what people say, you know, what's working for them. Where are they getting stuck? Like, we're really involved with the community. And part of that is so that we can try to make things better, you know? So
yeah, I mean, one of the things that we do is we decide to change things like on our end, like what we're doing personally to help the company grow. And so, for example, we rely on masterminds. We really rely on masterminds on the future. So, like, for example, we don't know where we're going to be in 10 years from now, whereas other companies are going to be like, we're going to be a $10 billion company, or we're going to be a $100 billion company, and they're all focused about money. You know, and that's it. It's like, that's it. That's money, money, money. Now we want people to make money. That's why we are here. But we don't want to be a $10 billion company so that we're billionaires. Like, that's not Paul and I's motivation, is to be a billionaire. Like, maybe we'll become a billionaire one day, like passively, if we're, you know, helping enough people. Obviously that principle will just continue to expand our, you know, income. But the goal is to mastermind, and we do this literally daily. You know, most of the time we just get together on a quick phone call. We figure something out. Like, we just literally, I think it was a week ago, we're like, hey, what can we do to help people close more sales? So we're like, well, why don't we do a mastermind every day where we do some invites every day and let people watch us do it? So we just started doing that. Like, literally this week, every day we go on a Zoom and people watch us do live invites to the company. And this was just an idea that we came up with. And we do this all the time. We come up with new ideas to help grow the company and help the members of the company and provide more value. What does this do? We're just literally giving more value to the company, and we don't charge anything extra for these little tiny additions that we come up with. So
I love the servant leadership message that both of you guys put out. You know, how can I help today? What's the next right thing that I can do to help today? You know, and that compounds and adds up over time, and here you are.
Yeah. Well, and I think the big thing is it goes even back to what Paul said before, right? The principle-based leadership, the leading by principle of, you know, things that matter, you know, integrity and honor and courage and faith and, you know, all these things that are really important to you guys. But then you're not pounding that into everybody. You're saying, this is what we're going to do, and you take what you need and, you know, move on with what you're doing. And I think that's what speaks volumes about what you guys have built is, you know, like you said, it's not the, you know, I'm the prophet, follow me, you know, we're going to be great. It's, we're the servants, you know, we're the, you know, you guys are the ones saying, hey, we're here to serve you, and you do what you want with it. And some people are taking that by the horns and going full bore. And other people are just kind of like, yeah, I'm here, you know, and I'm here to be around this community. And so like, that's that balance in between, I think is what really shows your guys' leadership, just from my standpoint, from what I see. But now,
not only is that a great example for those people in your group and who's following you, but for your kids, for your families,
absolutely.
You know, like that's an incredible example to be able to put out there and show your.
We hope, please.
It
let
is.
me inspire my kids, please.
It is. They see it.
Are they listening? Are they watching? Please, let something sink in.
Well, it's their job. It's their job to make you think they're not, but they are.
That's right.
Yeah, they'll make you think they're not, and they'll grumble and whine and complain. But when the day ends, you know, it's kind of like Paul. You know, one of the things that you do with your kids is you guys have a lawn service.
Yeah.
You guys actually go cut lawns and stuff. And I've seen the pictures with your kids. I've seen that happen. And, you know, I'm sure at some point in the day, one of them is going, are we done yet? Or I'm like, it's hot, or I'm thirsty. Like there's got to be one of those at some point in time, but they're doing it, right? They're grumbling, but they're doing it. And that's something that, again, shows your leadership capability to say, hey, this is the reasons we're doing these things. And so we continue to do them because they're the right thing to do, versus just trying to, you know, you're building a work ethic mindset that don't just give up because it's hard. So, which that plays into the next question is, how does that, you know, you guys have now been full-time entrepreneurs for a number of years. You've been through different companies, you know, Mike, you were in the military, you know, Paul, you've, you know, had to go through different hardships in your life as well. And how does all this together kind of correlate with being fathers and being husbands and like trying to build a family?
Well, one of the things is, you know, you're able to work when you need to work, right? You know, you obviously have certain things scheduled throughout the week. But one cool thing is, you know, you can schedule, and we create this business as a family type of business, because like we even just made this decision. We're not going to do masterminds on holidays. And why do we do that? I mean, we work from home, right? We could do it in any days, but we just decided not to. Why? Because we know that some people like to go do barbecues. Some people like to go do whatever for holidays or go on trips. And so we wanted to create a freedom lifestyle to spend time with your kids. So like, for example, had we done our mastermind on Monday night, like we normally do on Labor Day, I wouldn't have been able to go to a family barbecue that my family was doing at 5:00. I would have had to go on the mastermind.
Preach, man.
Right. So and I actually did this, like Paul and I actually did one on Labor Day once, I believe, because we haven't always done that. So we did one on Labor Day once, and my family, they went to the family dinner, and I was on the mastermind. I love hanging out with our HBA members, but I do remember doing that and just watching them go without me. Right. Not a big deal, because I just went after. It was only an hour on the mastermind, so it wasn't a big deal. But we just decided recently, we're like, you know what, we're just not going to do masterminds on holidays. So this business is a real family business, and it's something that allows us to be with our kids a lot more than if we're going to a job and things like that. So
I think he described it perfectly. Flexibility and leverage, like you can work around your schedule and the things that you do if you can. I said do I think that's funny.
I was like, don't say it.
That's not the first time I've made that joke. You can build leverage into them. You have an hour to work, try to involve some other people with that. That's the great thing about doing a mastermind where you're actually being productive, is people can be together and be working at the same time. And, you build leverage into that. And then of course the community, if you can build a strong community, that just builds and builds and builds, so that when you don't want to work or you can take the time off and the income is still there because people, they trust you and, they know you're going to be there for them. So.
Yeah, that's super powerful too. Like being able to build a community of people that you can walk away from your business and it still runs. You talk about Sam Walton before, and you think of like, Ray Kroc when he came up with the McDonald's system, right, for the franchising system, and just all these different things that people have done with businesses to be able to walk away from them and their leadership in the business, which in your guys' case, people who've been around since the inception, or even newer people that come in and show that they can be a leader, is that you can walk away and be like, all right, I'm going to be gone for a week. Or, when you have health complications or family issues or whatever, and you're not worried about your business because you're like, well, shoot, I'm not there. Is this getting done or is that getting done? You can be comfortable that like, hey, I know that there's people there that can help out. And I think that right there just shows, again, the true leadership capabilities that you guys have, in that you can build that community and you can kind of, foster that mindset so that people can be that way. And that's extremely powerful. That's something that doesn't exist really anywhere online.
Well, thank you very much for the kind words, Josh. We should do these podcasts more often because I'm really feeling good about myself talking to you guys.
Well, it's not to just make you feel good about yourself, but it's also to let the listeners know that there are places out there that exist like this. There are places that people actually care about one another versus just all about money.
Yeah. And, I think so I recently read a book called The Virtue of Selfishness. Don't judge. It's by Ayn Rand.
Josh, we're going to have to have a long list of links of the books that Paul keeps dropping.
But the thing that I realized as I was reading that book is that there are things you can do for other people that benefit other people that could be classified as selfish. For example, the whole charity aspect, that actually helps our business because it's good messaging. People really like it. They care about it. They want to stay with it, So at the end of the day, like you could say that you can make an argument that was a selfish thing to do. And it was to a degree, but it was also a good thing to do that we wanted to do. Right. And so it's the same with, Josh, what you're talking about as far as like raising leaders up. And trying to inspire people to step into their greatness and giving them opportunities to let their greatness shine, is that, there's one aspect of that you could say, oh, you're such a great leader. You're building people up. And yeah, like, I think that is part of being a great leader. But the other aspect is if people really believe in the vision and they have skills to lead, then that makes the work easier for all of us, right? So That is a selfish. Jim Rohn, I think he called it like intelligent self-interest or something like that. I don't remember the phrase, but I think I want to live in a world where we can do things that benefit everybody, ourselves included. Like I like the line from the Bible that says, love your neighbor as yourself. Some people say, oh, that just means you should sacrifice yourself and give your neighbor everything and give no regard to the things that you want and your time and just sacrifice. And I look at it as, well, aren't there things we can do that benefit us all? And if
more
we
about
can,
sharing. Yeah.
Like let's do the things that benefit us all, So that's taking everyone's interest into consideration. I like that idea.
I always think that's funny when people ignore the as yourself line in that sentence.
Yep.
Like love others as you do yourself. So if you,
right.
so if
don't
you
love yourself, you love yourself. You're so full of ego.
So if you do a lot for other people, you technically have to do that for yourself too. Otherwise you're not doing it as yourself. Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
That is.
I always look to the line that you hear on an airplane. Put your oxygen mask on first before you can help somebody else.
Yep.
Because if you're not in a good headspace, let's say, or if you're not in a good mindset, or if you're not taking care of yourself, how are you expected to be the best version of yourself for others if you can't, do that for yourself first?
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. That is so true.
Yeah. And that's something too, like the going back to like the love thy neighbor as, thyself, is that when you're thinking about that, it kind of goes back to that golden rule, like treat others how you would like to be treated.
Yeah.
So like I look at when I lived in an apartment building and when my neighbors were being loud, I would tell them they're being loud and say, hey, I would appreciate it if you not be so loud, because I would expect that they would do the same for me if I was being too loud. Now, in some instances, there's times when it's kind of unwarranted, but at the same time, it's, now that we live in a home and we have neighbors that are in their own home, there's times where we have a neighbor across the street that we're trying to convince her to get her sump pump moved. Right. And it's like, why is that? Well, it's because everybody in the neighborhood uses that communal mailbox, and your sump pump pumps the water in front of the mailbox. Like it's benefiting everybody, also you, so you don't have to walk through your slimy algae water to get to your mail too. But in reality, there's a little bit of self-interest in that at the same time. So,
and there's nothing wrong with self-interest. Like we have to live, right? So yeah.
Right. So, well, guys, this has been absolutely amazing. I have learned even more about you than I did before. And I will say that I do appreciate you guys spending the time with us. It's been a wonderful experience. We've got to have some laughs. We got to hear you guys talk about your stories, really impactful moments in your lives. And if there's, for each of you, take maybe 1 or 2 minutes and just one thing that you would say that, for people out there that are listening that are still in that mode, kind of like Kyle and I are, where we're still working and trying to get free. What is one principle you would say of the thing to really stick to get to that freedom?
Well, you definitely need to surround yourself with really amazing people, because I know when I was in the military, they were amazing in their own right, but they were not amazing when it came to entrepreneurship. I'm telling you, it was almost like it was almost like the crabs in a bucket thing. If someone was starting to become successful, it would almost like they'd try to bring you back in down to your level. Not everybody, but at least in my unit, it felt like I was outcast, and it felt like I was alone when I was building my business. So when I got into a community like Paul's mastermind, I started dialing into every single day. I was still in the military then. In 2011, I was still in the military, and I was dialing into that. And I started just listening to people, getting around amazing people every day. And then that started switching my mindset to a more positive one, and something that was more, bringing me towards my goals than pulling me back. So then once I got out of the military, I noticed things just exponentially got better and better and better, because I'm constantly hanging around good people. And sometimes you have to let go of some of the negative Nellies in your life, right? To get to that point. But yeah, just surround yourself with amazing people, and then that'll just start setting you on that direction. Even if you listen to podcasts like Josh's and Kyle's, you can, if you just listen to these every day, you're kind of getting other people's mindset downloaded into your mindset, right? So just listening to good podcasts, surrounding yourself, doing personal development, that kind of stuff is going to set you up and move you towards that direction a lot faster than if you tried to just hang around the same people that keep pulling you down. So that's one of the things that's helped me the best.
So not Netflix and Doritos and Navios and all that stuff, right?
Well, Netflix is okay as long as it's not like binge watching for 13 hours straight.
Yeah. Wake up, Netflix, lunch, Netflix, dinner, Netflix.
We only do that once a month after we've had a good productive month, 13-hour binge Netflix. No, just kidding.
You gotta reward yourself, right?
That was really good advice, Mike. So thankful to be working with you. And so I guess like the number one thing that I would say is learn to appreciate the metaphor of a new day. And to me, that means that the past never equals the future. There's always a new day. And on the entrepreneurial journey, if you're doing it right, you will have hard days. You'll have hard days where you feel like you didn't get anything accomplished. You'll have hard days where you felt like you made mistakes. You'll have hard days where you feel like this isn't working. You'll have hard days where you just want to throw in the towel and quit. Those do come, and they come with regularity. But if you'll remember that there's always a new day. The sun's always going to set tonight, and it's always going to rise again tomorrow. And what I found is that if you can just look forward to that new day and remember that each new day brings with it the opportunity to learn something new or the chance to do something different. And I think that those are the two reasons why it doesn't matter what your past has been like. We all have hope for success in the future and legitimate hope. And the reason is we can always learn something new and we can always do something different. And as long as we can do those things, we can always create new success for us in our lives. So be patient with yourself when those days come and look for the new day. They always come. So far, 40 plus years, the new days always showed up in my life and my business. So I have a feeling it'll be the case for you also.
Somebody going to put that as an affirmation on loop?
Yeah, right. We're gonna cut that out, and I'm just gonna play that over and over and over all day. And honestly, there's
great advices, guys.
Yeah, so many good moments in here.
Group hug.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, that's something that's we'll definitely, for those of you listening, head on over to our Those Two Dads YouTube channel. What we're going to start doing here coming up soon is we're going to start cutting out a lot of these really powerful moments, and even fun stuff too. So Paul, I already got it marked down. Your doo-doo comments get cut out as a blooper, just so you know.
Can you put that on an image? Doo-doo by Paul Hutchings.
Yep.
Some kind of like inspirational picture behind it can go viral on Facebook.
Just share it everywhere.
Wait,
like,
no, it was
he really is human.
The full quote is sometimes you do.
But yeah, it's that's something that we do believe that everybody can obtain inspiration and motivation from, is having these little moments that we can pick out and put out there. And we do these podcasts so that way people like Mike and Paul can be here for you all to give you a different perspective. There's not a single person we've interviewed so far, and I think we're up to like 8 or 9 now, something like that. We're on episode 25. We've been doing this for just over a year, so we're babies in the podcasting world. But in reality, like, we do this because everybody has a different perspective, even if they come from the same business line and from the same, even from the same company sometimes, and they still have a difference in mindset. And those differences is what can help people move forward. And so, again, really appreciate you guys. Really appreciate you being here and spending the time. This is probably close to our longest episode yet, but it's been great. And I don't even want it to end, but just for the sake of people who have been watching and for those who are listening, when this gets uploaded to the recording, we're going to go ahead and call it good. Kyle, any final thoughts or questions?
I just want to thank both of you guys for being on with us. This was amazing. There's a lot of great insight that the folks that catch our YouTube channel or catch the podcast will be able to glean from. So Really appreciate you guys sharing your stories.
Thanks for the opportunity, guys, and thanks for doing what you're doing. Keep it up.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was awesome.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, and we will catch you guys on the next episode. See y'all later.